Let's do this. Are you ready for a comeback? Are you ready to fly? Are you ready for the moment? Get ready to ride. Calling all the fighters, calling on survivors.
Hello guys, it's James and welcome to another episode of the Mangold podcast. Thank you for inviting me into your homes, your cars, your offices, wherever you are. This is the month where we celebrate fathers all around the world. Any male can produce a child, but it takes a special, unique individual to become a father. In my next episode, I went to visit my good friend Pastor Frank for the Viva Church in Oshawa, Canada to discuss the principles of being a good father. When you think of Pastor Frank, he's the epitome of what a good father represents. He has been a father for the ministry for over 29 years, and he has been married to his beautiful wife, Christine, and has raised two beautiful daughters. Listen, I learned a lot just sitting at the feet of wisdom. Come hear these principles that I learned, and let's go into the conversation. But before we go into the conversation, I want you to go out and get this book. This book is called Beyond the Gift, Ascending to Your Life Assignment. It is a book for men, it's a book for fathers, for uncles, for brothers, for cousins. You can get the book on Amazon, but get this book. And many men go out there and they provide for their families, but very few men discover their gifts. Anyway, thanks for being on the show, and let's go into the conversation. God bless you.
Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Pastor, how you doing?
How you doing? Good,
Pleasure,
good.
man. Pleasure. Wow.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes.
What a great honor.
You're a busy man.
Come on, no, not as busy as you are.
Oh, man. You said you were in and out of New York. You're a busy man.
Just in and out of New York, just a little bit, but
Right.
that goes with the territory.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
That's
my
awesome.
goodness.
So, anyways, thank you so much for having
Yes.
me. Really
Well,
appreciate that.
Thank you so much for being on the Mangold podcast. It's amazing because we're going to be talking about fatherhood today. It's not really too much of a popular topic. I mean, Mother's Day, everybody.
Oh,
It's about
Mother's Day is another level.
Yes, another level, trust me. But fathers are so important, and we really want to capture that today. And I saw it fit. What else fitting is sitting down with the pastor for Viva. Yes, 29
Well, thank
years
you.
of ministry.
29 years of ministry
Wow,
here. That's
wow.
right. We started back on the good old days, and little guitar, and here we are.
Oh, you play the guitar?
Well, I wouldn't call it playing the guitar, but I'm making noise through the guitar.
You do it?
I can do that.
Wow, amazing. So I had the opportunity of coming here with my wife, and the amazing thing about it is that when we stepped into this atmosphere, it was like heaven on earth, to be honest. We didn't even really understand that this was what happening in Oshawa. And you're doing a tremendous work here, man.
Thank you.
I commend you for that, yeah. So, greatly. So we're going to kick things off. So like I said, I came to church, and I see you up and about. You're a pastor who ministry don't stop for you. When you finish preaching, it's like you're down in the crowd.
Yeah.
Hugging everybody,
Yeah.
shaking everybody's hand. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, they say shepherds smell like sheep.
Yeah.
Well,
I like that.
Right.
I don't like to be seen just behind a pulpit,
Right.
and it's like Jesus touched people's lives. And I tell you what, it's very depressing when I can't get everybody, which happens every Sunday.
Yes,
I can't possibly get everybody. But I just like to be around people. I like to hug them. I like to be involved,
Yes,
and
right.
I think, someone told me one time, you go where you're celebrated, never where you're tolerated.
Wow.
And so I think that, people they're awesome and they deserve, and I just love to be around them.
Yes, amazing. So in our world today, there is like the hierarchy of leadership in the home. It's been eroded, it's been compromised. I read this book called The End of Leadership. And in that book is a book written by Barbara Kellerman. And in the book, she talked about the decentralization of power. Back then, everything was clear. It was God, father of the home, mother, then children. Today, it's so confusing. Women are now assuming the role of leadership. You know, so what I want to do is to really ask you some questions about fatherhood. You know, I mean, any man can get children, right? Biologically, but it takes a special individual to be a father. So I want to look at fatherhood in the context of family and also in the context of ministry. You know, so I really want to ask the first question. They say 85% of what we think is based on what our father, you know, our relationship with our father. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's true. I think it's sad what's happening in our world today, as you mentioned, because there is an absence of the authority figure.
Right.
And that's so sad in so many cases by choice. You know, I didn't grow up like that. James, my father and mother, great people. We had their issues, of course, which every family does. But, you know, my father was very present.
Wow.
You know, very present. We didn't have a lot of money. We grew up in a very poor environment, and he had a secular job, and he also pastored a church.
Wow.
But again, way back then, things were very different. But my father was very, very present, as much as he could be present. I think that's what helps. I think, you know, it's one thing. I'm not even talking about being there. I'm talking about participating in the family life.
Wow.
You know, it's so important. You know, and that doesn't happen. There is a mess that happens in family.
And that's a tremendous responsibility.
It is.
Because, you know, the thing about a man is that you have to be away to provide for the family, but to be present, you know, sometimes the kids don't want you to go. You know, Daddy, stay, we want you here. But if you stay here, you know, you don't have the opportunity to go, you know, and provide. So your dad worked long hours? Yeah, so he
did. He traveled. As a matter of fact, he would leave on Monday, come back on a Friday or Saturday.
Wow.
So through the week, we were mainly with my mom.
Wow.
And he had to travel. He worked in you know, selling and things like that in a sale job. But even though, you know, he was absent for the middle of the week, I still can tell you that my father was an absent father. My father was very present father.
Gotcha.
Because we look forward for him coming. And when he was there, he was there. You know, participating in our lives, making sure to get the reports, you know, Mama's report. It would be bad news if Mama had bad report when my dad comes home. You know, and so the absence is not as much as, because everybody has different circumstances, and so, you know, even though to provide for us, he had to be outside, but he was very present. I don't see, and I don't remember my father being, oh man, I remember missing him. I remember that he was, you know, every time they would travel, you know, but he would come back with little gifts for us, and he would come back very present. So we look forward to that.
Wow,
you know?
wow. How has this affected your being a father now? Because you're a father, you have two beautiful daughters.
Yes.
Yeah, and your wife, Christine.
That's right.
Great.
Yeah.
So how did that affected you now? Like what are some of the lessons you learned now that you are a father? You know, the reason why I asked, because one time I was driving in the car with my dad, right? I was raised by, my dad was very present as well. And he said, Junie, I love you. But I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand. What do you mean you love me? Because I was looking at it from a son's perspective, right? Only when I became a dad, then I realized what he was saying. You know, so could you just tell us, you grew up with your dad, you saw your dad in the home, you know, he went to work, you know, he was very present. How has that affected you now, being the father for your household?
You know, expression of love.
Wow.
It was something that was very, very present in my dad's life and my mom as well. But not only that, the instruction. You know, my dad was a man of integrity and character. As again, we didn't have money, but we had a name.
A name.
You know, and I tell you,
a good name.
A good name. I go back to Brazil today, and we have streets in this city of, you know, 4 million people that's named after my father. You know, and we have schools named after my father. So my father was a very you know, he passed it on. You gotta keep your name clean. You have to, you know, and again, by his doing it,
Right.
expressing love and affection and all that. And so what that translated to me today with my girls, I have a great relationship with both of my girls.
Right.
We are able to talk about everything, which was a reality with my father. Right. Expression of love,
Wow.
to them. This day and age, kids don't want to be around their dad sometimes, or a little bit awkward, joining hands and hugs and kiss. Well, that never happened in my house. We are very affectionate. We can, we kiss, we hug, and all of that. And I think, I take a lot of that from my father. He was very hands-on, and I am hands-on kind of there too.
Wow. So being a father is like, because sometimes you see, when you hear of, they say men are 90% physical, women are, the opposite, 90% emotional. And a lot of guys talk about the dad. The dad was hard, Some guys told me that their dad never told them that they loved them. And it's amazing that you would say something like that, that you actually had that, expression from your dad, him telling that he loved you, hugging you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's a side to fatherhood, right? That affectionate side, that emotional side, right?
And another thing too, James, I think is so important for dads, to ask forgiveness. When you're wrong, you're wrong.
Okay.
I wish I was going to say that I would be right all the time,
Right.
But that's not so. And I remember getting married with Chris, her father, it was a different dynamics there.
Okay.
And with that family dynamic, I mean, her father has a great father too, but there was a different dynamic, but she was saying how important it was for the father to always, when the father is wrong, when you're wrong, ask forgiveness.
Whoa.
And it's a practice in
That's
our home.
powerful.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And they call me out. You know how kids are. I have two girls. We sit at the table for family times, and sometimes they say, "Well, Dad, that's not right," and whatever.
Right.
And you have to swallow your pride. And I think that takes a long way on the journey in relationship. If you're wrong, you're wrong.
Yeah. Even talking about being wrong and owning up to failure, owning up to mistakes, that's tough. Because, in my interview with a couple of men, who wasn't raised with their fathers, they are no fathers right now. And I think what came out in talking to some of these men is that their father left. But when I discovered why the father left not because he didn't care, it's because he was scared of failure. So a lot of them left.
Right.
I've heard of stories whereby, they just left. They couldn't stand the pressure.
Yeah.
Because on the journey of fatherhood, you make mistakes, right?
Oh.
Yeah. So.
I think in our mind sometimes we have this mindset of, super kind of, husband and a father that you have to figure out the whole thing,
right.
And that's not reality.
Right.
In a family dynamic, you need our wives, you need our kids, everybody contributes. And I think just accept your failures. As you said, like we fail.
Right.
It's just the bottom line. I think I took that from my father. My dad was a very humble man.
Okay.
He wasn't a very tough, He was very humble, very, integrity was high, character, but he was very humble, And I learned with that, and I think for us it's important that I think for dads need to understand that we fail.
Right.
And we need grace.
Gotcha.
And you need to give grace and you need to receive grace. There's no need to flee, no need to hide.
Right.
Except, hey,
Yeah.
it is what it is. I'm not good at everything, are you? We're not,
Of
right?
course not.
We have issues.
Yes, for
I
sure.
mean,
Yeah, for sure.
some of us more than others, but we have issues,
Right,
and we
right.
just have to,
Yeah.
swallow pride and
Yeah.
accept.
But this is so therapeutic for me, hearing you say this. Because, I remember when I first got married, it's like I felt like, I had to be right about everything. And exposing that side to your wife, becoming vulnerable. It's not easy, right? But it's good that you're saying that. And I'm sure fathers who are listening out there, that's amazing. That's amazing. I want to talk about, so we're on family right now. And you pastor a church, of course.
Correct.
Right? And in terms of your kids, right? How do you separate and show them that they're unique apart from the ministry and the families that you lead? Because sometimes sometimes kids say, "Oh, my dad belongs to the church," you know, and you know, it's tough for them, right? I remember I went to T.D. Jakes' Manpower, and there was a story that this guy gave about his dad. His dad was a pastor, and you know, he was in and out of rehab. He was strung out on drugs, you know, and he said something about his dad. He said that the church tried to make him, the father, disown the son because he was bringing a lot of shame on the ministry, you know. And one thing he said that the father said, he told the church, "Listen, that's my son. Stay out of it. That's my son.
Yeah, come on.
I will go wherever it is to look for him. That's my son." So the question I want to ask you is like, how do you make them feel special, you know, knowing that you're leading families, you're leading the ministry, everybody have access to you, you know, how do you make them feel special?
You know, again, I have to go back to my own father.
Right, okay.
Being a pastor
Right.
in the Methodist church. Methodist church back then, we would change every 2 or 3 years. There would be a rotation of pastors.
Right.
So my dad we'd rotate churches. And I remember every single church, first Sunday, family there, my dad would get us to stand, come to the front, and then he would find in the crowd kids that would compare to our age.
Wow.
And they ask them to stand.
Right.
And he would say, "This is my family.
Wow.
And my family is no different than your family. See those kids? See these kids? They will do exactly the same thing that those kids do. There is nothing special about them. So don't put that on them." First Sunday, right there, he would say, you know.
Wow.
I never had to do that here because, of course, you know, when Gabriela was born, I started our church here. And so Viva Church is all Gabriela knows, and Viva Church is all Leticia knows, you know. But I think, you know, what has helped us here that I never made distinction.
Right.
You know, because we are a pastor's family, you know, now we have to be, there is a pressure that comes with that, there is a standard that comes with that, but I tell you, I never said, "Oh, because I'm a dad, I'm a pastor, you can't do this." No, you can't do this or that because you're a believer.
Wow.
That's just as simple, not because I am a pastor, you know. I never put that pressure on them,
wow,
you know, of them to behave in a certain way, or
Gotcha.
you know, it's all, look at the Bible, like this is generally for anybody in the church. Well, Dad, but they do whatever they do, but we don't do that. Not because I'm a pastor, just because the Bible says so.
Right,
It's like this is a standard for Christians, and so I kind of I was very careful, never place a burden of ministry on them, but rather the joy. I saw them, you have to divide me with everybody, and our life is very, very busy, and I have to go here, there, but and that's the negative, quote unquote, negative side, which is not, but it's, you know, you can be seen as a negative, but there is a lot of perks. And I always present the perks to them. You know, I don't miss opportunity. Like if we are somewhere, I say, "You know why we are here today? Is because the job that I have allow me to do that." Like going for lunch, for instance, with Gabriela or Leticia during the weekday. If a person, many dads want to do that, but because they work, they can't.
Correct.
Well, I would bring that in. You know, do you know why we are traveling? You know why we enjoying? Is because of Dad is a pastor. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So I always brought the blessing, you know, of ministry, and never trying to put the pressure on them to behave. I never forced them to come to church. Never had to.
Wow.
I mean, I always, you know, this is what we do. But I don't remember ever dragging my kids to the house of God.
Yeah.
Never.
Wow.
I say, "Hey, it's Sunday today, let's go." They always want to come. I remember when we started 2 services here. At one point we had 3 services, but then when we started the 2 services, someone saying, "You're going to mess up your kids because now they have to come to 2 services." And I think, no, they love to come to 2 services. They serve, they do, you know. So I think, to answer your question, not placing a burden that doesn't belong to them, you know, it's my call.
Yes.
They came by default, you know, they came by because they are, but they needed to know their place and their space, and I need to know ours and how to reconcile that. I think we have done a good job at it.
That's
not perfect,
amazing. Right?
But good job at it.
Still a work in progress, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that you said that you showed them the shiny part of it, because sometimes that's what leaders do.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes a leader can be going through so much, but he would always prepare a bright future.
Yeah.
I remember when I first came to Canada, things wasn't the best with us, right?
Yeah.
But I would always try to make sure that I show them, because I came to study. And, they came with me, my wife came with me, my son came with me, and it was very, very tough. But I try within my power to make sure that they didn't carry my burden of a student.
Right.
So I did whatever I could to.
Yeah.
But that's great. That's great. Mm-hmm.
And something too, James, I think is important, it's like I remember a trip that we did to Cambodia. Gabriela was 15, 16 years old.
Right.
I remember on the plane, and I said, do you realize that if you wasn't my kid, you wouldn't be here today?
Right.
On this trip. There, I always said, do you know why we're enjoying this? Is because of, and I think that many times is important for the kids to know, that when many times I had to say, ooh, I have to travel, I can't be here for something that was important to them. But they never complained, never, because they knew that I would make up when I come back. And you have to,
It's amazing. Let's talk about the pandemic. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Do we have to talk about the pandemic? I want to forget about the pandemic, James.
It's almost like you said, that was like a shocker, like, the pandemic.
I'm trying to forget, therapy to forget, that was it.
Yeah. In the pandemic, people lost a lot.
Yeah.
People lost relationships, they lost
Definitely.
jobs, they lost loved ones. It was really, really tough. How was that experience for you, fathering and leading in a crisis?
Yeah. Leadership has to rise in crisis.
That's good.
When I
love that.
When I found out, I was in Brazil when the whole thing started, and I came on the second last plane back to Canada.
Right.
But I shift mode right away. I knew that if I couldn't pastor anymore the way it was. And so, as difficult as it was, I thought, okay, my job now is to, what do you do when your kids are hurting? You comfort them, you direct them, right? And that's what I did. I said, my job now is to really bring in faith, hope. When everybody's dooming and glooming and things are going to be bad, well, I never denied the reality. But I said, if we stay on that, we are going to go in a wrong turn here. We say, oh, look, it is what it is. We got to stay home. But we got to stay home, but we have to enjoy this time. And so I always brought faith. I brought comfort, or I try to anyways. I don't think I succeed. I think I fail in some ways. But I try to change the mode. I knew that pastoring during the pandemic, it wasn't like pastoring before. You had to be flexible. You had to be understanding. You had to hear people, see where they were at, not express your own views or opinions or whatever they were, but trying to get to pastor and shepherd people during that time. That's what you do with your kids. Yes. In your kids at home, that's what you do. You hear them and you shepherd and you kind of lead them, comfort them, and give them direction and discipline sometimes, because you want them to be better.
Correct.
Right? Well, the same thing here, in a church. You had to, that was my mode then. Kind of pastoring, shepherding, comforting, guiding, leading in faith. So, because I knew one thing, this is not going to last forever.
Come on now.
It's a season of time. From the get-go, this is not going to last. It can't last forever.
Wow.
So, how we behave during this season will dictate how we're going to overcome.
Wow. And it's amazing that you look at Moses as a leader, and one thing I discovered about leadership is that the man become a man of seasons. The ability to lead people in different seasons. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Important that you mention Moses, because what did he do in crisis? He acknowledged people around him.
Wow.
That could help him to lead. And here at Viva, we have an amazing eldership, pastors that I owe the success of us going through the pandemic to them, because these guys help us to lead. And I think as a father of the house, you don't have to have all the answers. In a family, well, we have your wife. She is the helpmate, right? And your kids grow up, they also become part of the voice in the house. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so you just acknowledge that. Well, in church, no different. You know, we had a great leadership team that helped us to navigate through that and giving them authority to do what they needed to do and acknowledging. And man, and Moses did exactly that. Remember the Jethro principle?
Yes, for sure.
You know, that's what he did.
Yeah,
you know, look, you know, it's like you can't keep doing this. You gotta share responsibility here.
Share responsibility. And it's amazing that leadership is the ability to identify where other people can lead, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow, I'm loving this. Yeah, well, you know, we want to talk about vision and leadership now. And I just want to ask the question, how do you know balance between, because I mean, the vision, it's a vibrant vision, right? It's a big vision, right? How do you deal with the passion of leading the vision and the compassion of dealing with people? Because, you know, everybody come, right? I mean, I think as John Maxwell says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And, you know, people come with their own interests. It's not everybody come, hey, I love this vision, fired up for the vision. Yeah. How do you navigate those sort of things? Yeah.
I'm loving this because you are bringing to memory things. Again, we have to go back to my dad.
Yes. Well, his fatherhood, right?
Yeah, as a father, as a pastor. Yeah. You know, when I start pastoring, my dad sat me down, and he said this. He said, "Frank, son, imagine you driving a flatbed truck with loose chairs on the top of it,
right?
People sitting on them, and you are going downhill. There is a curve down in the end of the hill. Your job is to make sure that by the time you end the curve, everybody's still in the bed, still in the truck, that you didn't lose anybody."
Wow.
I tell you, that little counsel, it serves me to this day. People don't want to be dragged anywhere.
Come on.
People want to be a part of. Right. People want to be involved.
Say that again. That's
people
deep.
Don't want to be dragged anywhere. People want to be led.
Yes.
And people want to be a part of, you know.
Right.
And I wish I could tell you that I end the curve with everybody in the truck. I'm not sure if I will succeed, but I tell you, I try to. And I try to get everybody by the end, you know, I try to have everybody on the truck sitting down, loose there, but, you know, secure. And for vision is the same thing. You know, I figure that what's good of a vision if you don't have anybody following, or you got to shepherd people into that, you know, and again, and I think sometimes pastors or leaders, they want to accomplish their vision so much that they forget that they're dealing with people. And people are the best asset that we have.
Yes.
Not the vision is amazing and good, you need it to have, we need to go somewhere. But if there is no people, then what you have?
Definitely.
You know, I never wanted to have a great ministry. I never set up to be a great church, a great ministry. Never set up. I just want to have a church that God will look at down and say, I like that.
Yes.
I want my presence to be in that place.
Wow.
You know, and I knew that you can't mistreat people.
Correct.
You can't just deal with people as people that are there to help you to accomplish something.
Yes.
You know, they are to partner with you, and they are not to, you know, they are not slaves. They are not accessory to something. They are vibrant part.
Wow.
How do I associate? Just acknowledging that. By the time I finish that curve down there, I want to have all of them on the truck still.
Oh,
you know.
Gosh. Amazing.
So is vision important? Yes.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Are people important? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Right. Wow. That's amazing, man. So people come with so the other question is, people come with gifts, you know, come with talents, they come with abilities. You know, I heard this saying that a father or a mentor pulls out of someone what God has deposited in them, right? How do you manage these gifts? How do you manage, like, you know, getting people in their gifting, you know, getting that out of them? That's a tremendous responsibility. That's a tremendous task, right?
I forgot the name of the movie.
Right.
Many years ago, I watched a movie, and it was a scout, like a baseball scout.
Right.
You know, the guy would go into watch kids playing and stuff, and he was there scouting and all that. You know, I remember watching that movie, and the Lord said to me, "That's what you need to be doing,
Scouting.
scouting." So that's what I do.
Right,
You know,
right.
or at least I try to do. You know, to try to get people. I think the major frustration many times, James, is that sometimes you want more than the people want themselves. And you see the gift, but they don't see the gift.
Wow.
Or they don't trust you that you see the gift.
Wow.
And then it's frustrating, you know? It's very frustrating to deal with people that don't want it. You see, man, you're potential. You have so much more to give.
Yes,
you
yes.
have so much more to do, and you have the potential, the ability. But they
So you actually see that as a leader?
yeah.
Wow.
You scout, right? You watch, and then you place people in different areas,
Right.
and you see what comes out, you know, and
Yes.
you just look and watch, you know. I think that's my job, you know,
Yes.
as a lead pastor, is to watch, to see what are the gifts, what are the abilities, what is God calling people to do. Sometimes is supernatural. The Lord speaks and says that.
Right.
Or sometimes it's because of they are already doing things.
Correct.
You just, you know, you develop those gifts, right?
It's amazing. Well, we're coming to an end. Oh man, I wish I could stay here all day with you, man.
Thank you.
They say when you're in the presence of the silverhead, you know, you shouldn't be talking. You should be asking questions.
So you're calling me old. All right.
No, man, but it's amazing. But I'm loving this. But how do you stay inspired?
I stay inspired. Devotional life, number one. You know, time with God. If you don't have time with God, you can't. You lose it.
Right.
But then, I also, I watch. I look for relationships. I'm a relationship looker, if that is a word. I'm not even sure if that's a word, so please forgive me my English.
Right.
But I'll go after. I'll go after people that have been where I want to be,
Wow.
are where I want to be. I just stay inspired by watching, people, watching pastors, watching leaders, reading, absorbing everything that I can,
Right.
That's what inspires me. I just love the house of God. I love the church. I think it's the best place for anyone to be. And I just see that, there is so many great places out there that we can be inspired.
Do you get discouraged as a father and discouraged as a leader?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very much so.
But you don't look discouraged, of course.
No.
You always
because
look happy.
I do, and I am happy. James, I am happy. How can you be sad around you? Tell me. I look for people like you, people that smile, people that,
Oh, I get it.
yeah, I get, but, then there is a lot more
Yeah.
to be encouraged, James.
Right.
God's doing so many things and so much more. The devil tries to help you to focus, or trying to focus you on what is not right and what is not good. As a father, you're not doing this, you're not doing that right. Well, but I try to look in what is right. Trying to look in what is good.
Come on.
Try to look what can be a potential of being something good, and that's how we stay encouraged.
Yeah. I'm reminded of Jesus. You look at the life of Jesus, and if I was in that day, I would be riding with Jesus. Trust me, man. This guy's miracles, feeding thousands of people. But he reached to a moment in his leadership, journey where he's in a garden, and he's discouraged. And he's asking the Father, if you just let this cup pass from my mouth. And the amazing thing about it now, he's looking to these people, his friends, Peter, James, and John, and he's saying, wake up, guy, what are you doing sleeping? Do you have those kind of people in your life whereby, you're going through a discouraging time and you're putting pressure on them to say, hey guys, come on. This is what I'm going through. What are you doing sleeping? Because, it's a cost to be close, right? It's a price to be close. A lot of people feel like they can be close to the leader. But being close to the leader, it requires certain things, praying, fasting when the leader fasts and stuff like that. Do you have that kind of
You know, that's the
Persons
beautiful
around you.
thing about living community, you know, allowing people closer to you, which for pastors sometimes they don't want that closeness because it gets too personal. But when I look at the life of Jesus, he was very close with everybody,
Right.
you know. And I think there's two things that I just want to point out. You always have to have people over you that will help you to kind of get. I remember one guy, you know, after hearing me cry and I'm, I want to quit, because you go through those seasons, right? You know, this is not good. And he let me talk. And then he said, okay, finish talking. Good. Now you hurt, you cry, and you didn't, I heard, now time to move on and get better and go get the job done.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
So it's enough crying now. You cry enough. Now it's just pull up your pants and get the job done. You understand that, Frank?
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, I understood that. And sometimes in the other way.
So he saw it objectively.
Yeah.
He was able to, and it's good to have, what I'm hearing you say, it's good to have people in your life who can look at things objectively.
Yep.
You know, because sometimes you're in that moment, right?
Yeah. And he listened. He allowed me to cry. Didn't, oh, you know what you're doing. Never did that.
Right.
But he listened. He said, okay, it's valid. It's all true. But you have a job to do.
Right,
so Frank, time to get the job done. Okay?
Wow.
You cry long enough and you were discouraged long enough. Now it's time to get out of that mess, get out of that hole and go get the job done because the enemy wants you out.
Wow.
Okay? And so get the job done.
Wow.
And then I had people, my own pastors, my own people. If it wasn't for these guys to encourage, because sometimes, you go through those seasons or things are happening. We went through a pruning season in our church. Well, over the years, we went through several pruning seasons in our church, and it's discouraging for me, seeing people leaving or seeing people, God's doing some pruning and stuff. But man, to have the guys to say, Pastor Frank, it's going to be okay. Don't worry about it.
Wow.
It's going to be all right. You're going to go through. Remember that season that we went through? We're going to go through this season too.
Come on.
It's going to be okay. Then you come home. And then your wife goes, hey, it's going to be all right. Then when your wife says, it's done, right? Chris can put up with my little, complaining for a little bit, but then she comes, okay, enough now. Let's get the job done. And then comes that frustration of, guys, come on. As you mentioned that Jesus... Come on, don't you see that we are in this crucial time and season here? We need you praying. So all of those three aspects, James, I think allowing them weave in and out of your life needs to happen, all the time.
In the multitude of counselors, there's safety.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Great. So we talked about, the family, and so I just want to end off with, spiritual fathers, spiritual sons. We hear this toss around a lot in, contemporary Christian circles. That's my spiritual son. This is my spiritual father. How does that work? What is a spiritual father? Who is a spiritual father?
Yeah. I think that word is tossed around a little bit too loose sometimes, and sometimes too controlling sometimes. Bottom line is, nobody belongs to me.
Okay.
It belongs to God. People belong to God. This is not my church. These are not my people. This is God's people, God's church. Though I am in a position, in a place where God placed me as a father over the house. As a father over the house, there comes the responsibility of caring, leading, guiding, comforting, sometimes discipline. All of this needs to take place as a position as a father. Now, a father, I believe, is a recognition. Again, you can have the title of a father, but if you don't have the recognition of a father, then and you earn that. You earn that. People say, I really don't care how people call.
So unpack that a bit more, because I always had the thought that, okay, well, physically, I have sons, and I could identify my sons, right? However, I think it's different, and this is just me saying, because I would really love to hear your weighing on this. In the realm of the spirit, the son identifies the father. That's just my thinking, hey, this is. I think it's one of them. It said in the Bible, "My father, my father." I think it was Elijah who was going up and said, "My father, my father." And it seems as though you identify your father. It seems as though sometimes the spiritual father, he functions, but he will never tell you, you're my spiritual son.
Absolutely.
It takes the son to say, okay, that's my
Exactly.
daddy. That's it?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe
Yeah.
like you do.
Yeah.
I think it's a recognition.
Recognition.
My own kids, I am their father. Biologically, I have
Correct.
that. But then anybody else has to recognize. As I was saying, I really don't care what people call me.
Right.
But they will call me what they want out of me. In other words, if you want a Frank's anointing, call me Frank. If you want a pastor's Frank anointing, but that's the I really don't, honestly, James, it's not a issue with me. People call me, Frank, Frank, or Pastor Frank. It doesn't make any difference. It does make a difference in their hearts. What am I to them? Is this people will come and they will recognize me as the father, and then they'll give me that place as a father in their lives. But I can't take that. I can't say, you are my son now, you're my son now, you're my son now. No. It comes the other way around.
Oh my goodness.
I think that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah. I'm loving this. Wow. So it's the recognition. It's almost like submission, right?
Exactly.
It's like, you can't tell your wife, submit to me.
Yeah.
I'm the boss.
And it's a great honor.
Yeah.
Imagine, right? Great honor. Fatherhood's a great honor. And it's not to lord over people. Nobody deserves that. It's not Lord. When a person recognizes me as a spiritual father to them, well, I have a voice. I have a weight that I have to be aware of, so I don't begin to use that for my benefit. It's never about me.
Right.
It's always about them and about, it's an honor. When people recognize me, this is my pastor.
Right.
Well, it's an honor for me. Well, it puts me in right? More than just not a pride thing.
Yes.
It's more a careful thing. It's more a honor things. Like, wow, this guy is giving me a place in his heart that I better treasure.
Wow.
Not the other way around.
Oh my
goodness. You are my people now.
Yes,
No,
yes,
that.
yes. That's powerful,
not
because I think they said the higher you climb in leadership, you gain more responsibilities, but you lose your rights.
Exactly.
You lose your rights.
Exactly.
And I think I heard one professor put it this way. He says, James, never use your authority to defend yourself.
That's right.
He said, let God defend you and let the people defend you. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. So, man, listen, I'm loving this, man. We got to do a part two.
Thank you so much.
We have to do a part two, man, Pastor.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yes.
Love it. Enjoyed
Yes,
it.
yes.
Thank you so much.
I learned so much. Thank you, Pastor Frank.
God bless you.
God
Thanks
bless
so
you.
much for having me.